Hey guys, it's Mr. Hing. I hope you're all good and well. It's been a while since I made my last video. Today what we're going to be looking at is examination preparation for paper 1. And it's going to be from a past paper. It's a past paper of 2024 and it is from a GEC paper, which if you're not from South Africa, it's a paper that the nation is doing. So this is a past paper of one of those papers, and we're going to be looking at the algebra type of questions. Okay, so let's jump right into it. Okay, so how do we go and simplify this one? So this was question 17, and it says simplify, and we need to simplify this, and they give us our options. So let's go ahead and simplify. So I'm just going to write it out first. So it's the y squared plus 1 over y to the minus 2 over y to the 2 times y to the 2, and then there's a negative 2. Now guys, this is it looks really complicated. It's not too bad, but if I was in grade 9 and I got this, it would look really complicated. So the first thing that I would do is I would see that actually this, if I highlight in green here, this over here can be written another way. Remember, if we have y to the negative 2, this can be also written as 1 over y to the positive 2, because when we have a negative exponent, we can flip it, make it go and become a denominator, and get a positive exponent. So how I can rewrite this will look much nicer. Have a look at the next way that I'm going to write it. So I'm still going to write my brackets. I'm still going to write the minus 2 because I'm not working with this yet. Okay, I'm still going to write my fraction sign. So I'm going to write y to the 2. Now this can be written as plus y to the positive 2. Now why, Mr. Hing? Well, if you look at 1 over y to the negative 2, I said that if you have a negative exponent, you can bring this whole thing to the top, and it will now become y to the positive exponent of 2. Okay, so when you have y to the negative 2 just like this, you can bring it down and make it a denominator. If it's already a denominator, you can bring it to the top and write it as like this with a positive exponent. So that is one of our exponential laws, or one of the rules that we've learned. And then at the bottom, we can actually simplify this part. So remember, when you have similar bases, what do we do together with the exponents? We plus them, so that'll be y to the 4. Okay, now what can you see regarding your numerator? What's happening here? We actually have like terms, so we can simplify it again. So let's go and do that. So y squared plus y squared. Guys, on the side here, I'm going to continue just making little notes, because I know sometimes if I just explain it and show you the answer, it can get weird. So not weird, but you can get lost. So to simplify this, I'm just going to give you a silly example. If I have a to the 5 plus a to the 5, remember there's an imaginary 1. So when you have like terms, you can just plus the coefficients, the 1 and the 1, so it will become 2a to the 5. Let me give you another example. If I have ab squared plus 3ab squared, those are like terms, so it would become 4ab squared. Okay, so really simple. You apply that over here as well, and what you end up getting is 2, because there's an imaginary 1, so it's 2y squared over, this stays the same, y to the 4, and we still have our bracket with an exponent, okay, the negative exponent. Okay, let's continue. So now we have this in our bracket, and we can simplify it again. Okay, so how do we simplify this? Well, we deal with our coefficients first. So the 2 divided by an imaginary 1, 2 divided by 1, it will stay 2. Then how do we cancel this? Well, there's 2 y's at the top, y squared. There's 2 at the top, and there's 4 at the bottom. So when you subtract them, there will be 2 left over at the bottom. So y to the 2 when you end up canceling. And then, yes, it is all still to the negative 2. Now, guys, now we can go ahead and sort out this guy over here and see how it applies. So let's go do that. So what is the rule when we have excuse me, an exponent outside the bracket? It affects everything inside the bracket. So it will affect that and it will affect that, right? So it's going to become the following. So we're going to have 2 to the negative 2, right? That is the first part that it's affecting, the numerator, and it affects the denominator. So what is the rule when you have an exponent to another exponent? We multiply them. So 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. So it'll be over y to the negative 4. And remember, in maths, we don't like negative exponents. So how are we going to simplify this? Well, what's the rule? We can bring that down and we can bring that up. So this y to the negative 4 is going to come up and get a positive, and this is going to come down. So let's have a look at that. I'm going to change it in green. So all of a sudden, what we're going to end up getting is y to the positive 4 over, do you see that this went up and the exponent sign changed to positive, and this is going to come down and become 2 to the positive 2 now. Can you see that this came down and became positive? And then lastly, as you simplify it, that stays the same, but 2 squared is 4, and this is your final answer. So it's really, really long. I wanted to make sure that I kind of showed every step so that you are aware of how we get the answer. So guys, what do? You just look for your answer, and there you go, have it. It is B, y to the 4 over 4. Okay, let's look at this tough one. Okay, so we have a square root, right, of this thing here, multiply by this, and then all over, that's our numerator, and then all over this multiplied by the y to the negative 3. So let's start off with just simplifying what we can. So we're going to start over here. So the square root of, so remember when you have this, again, I'll make notes on the side here. When you have this type, or rather when you just have things inside of your square root sign, so 25, let's say x to the 10, you deal with the coefficients, you square root that, and then you deal with your variables afterwards. So the square root of 25 is 5. And what do we do here, guys? Do you remember the rule? You take whatever's on the outside, there's an imaginary 2 because it's a square root, and you make as if you just divide that exponent by whatever's on the outside. So if you had to give your answer, it would be x to the 5. So let's go and actually do that for this question over here. Let me choose green. So the square root of 4 is 2. If I had to divide that 6 by 2, you're going to get x to the 3, and then y, and then if I had to take negative 2 divided by 2, it's going to give me negative 1. Okay, and then we can multiply. Now we can simply just simplify this side, and then we're basically going to simplify each, I don't want to say each term because there's one term here, but each part of this question, and then we'll see how we can cancel out or work them together afterwards. So just simplify each part. So over here, what happens when you have an exponent raised to another exponent? We multiply. So 2 times negative 2 is going to become negative 4, all over. So can you see we just simplifying? That has become that, and that has become that. We're just simplifying for now. Now, what is the rule? When you have anything raised to the exponent of 0, it equals 1. You can even have a bunny, a bunny rabbit, or whatever. Anything raised to the power of 0 is always 1. Please remember that. Okay, that was just for the laughs, but just to emphasize my point. Anything to the power of 0 is 1. Okay, so this now becomes 1. So this has become this, and this is still, we can't really, this is as simplified as possible, at least as it stays at the bottom. We can bring it up to the top just now. So now what ends up happening, guys, is that we can, so each part we've simplified as much as we can. Now we can work them together, multiply them together, etc. It will be a lot easier, and we can actually see how we get to our answer. So how do we deal with this? We first deal with our coefficients. So 2 multiplied by what's here in the imaginary 1. So 2 times 1 is 2. And now we have our different bases. Okay, we have x, we have y, we have x, and we have y's at the bottom. So there are a few ways of doing this. I'm just going to do it the way that I like to do it. So I'm just going to work with the bases of x for the moment. So it's going to be x over here and then 3. And then what ends up happening is, because you are multiplying like bases, remember, if you have a to the 5 multiplied by a to the 10, what do you end up doing? You end up plusing the exponent. So I'm going to do that here. So 3 plus, but now there's a little trick, is that there's a negative 4. So you're going to actually end up subtracting, essentially. And then what's going to end up happening is we have y to the negative 1 all over, because that y to the negative 1 is still there. I hope you guys are following. And then this stays the same, y to the negative 3. And obviously you'll see that these two are going to be working together just now to get more simplified. So let's continue. I'm just going to simplify that. So it becomes 2x. And then 3, when you subtract 3 minus 4, it's actually going to give me a negative exponent. I'll show you how that simplifies further. Let me just move down here. And then we have, and now what I actually wanted to do is, if I have that y to the negative 1, I can bring it down, and it has a positive imaginary 1. Because remember, when we have negative exponents, we can bring them down, and then this guy I can bring up here, and that will be y to the positive 3. Okay, and you'll see I'm going to end up bringing this down as well. So essentially, let's continue. We have 2 y to the positive 3 over, and now x comes to the bottom, okay, with a positive 1, and then y like that. And now you can see that we have the y's. There's y to the 3 and then y to the imaginary 1 there, and we can simplify that. And when you do that, you take the 3, subtract the 1, so it becomes 2y to the 2 over x. And where did that y go? Well, it got used up when it cancelled with that, and that became 2 afterwards. So guys, that is the final answer. Let's see if we have that answer here. We have, there it is over there, letter D. Okay, let's have a look at a few more. So guys, I do, as I prepare this, I do know that these questions for some of you could be a bit higher. So I would suggest always knowing your basics first and your fundamentals, and then gradually getting into harder and more advanced questions. But if you're here and you're getting it, then that's great. Alright, so guys, what do we do here? The question is just simplify this expression. Really simple, this one actually. So you take this over here, and what do? We are just going to multiply in. So that's very nice and easy. So you take negative 3 times by 2, that gives you negative 6. Y times y squared, that's going to give me y to the 3. So that's this one done. And then we multiply in here, that's going to be a positive because you have 2 negatives. And then 3 times 4, 12. And then y times y is going to be y squared, and we just keep that negative 1 over there. Okay, so that should be our answer. Let's see where that is. I think it's the first one. Here we go. Okay, so that's letter A. let's have a look at simplifying this one. Oh, right, so let's have a look. What I want to do is simplify as much as I can on the top to see if it can be more simplified, but I can definitely see that. We can simplify this, and let's see what we end up with. So we're going to have the 15 y to the 3, that stays the same. We're going to multiply in. The negative and the negative becomes positive. So that's going to be 3, and then the y times the y is y squared. Then we have negative 3y. We're doing this arrow over here. So we're saying negative 3y times the positive 2. That's going to give me a negative still. 6, and then y. And then we have plus 6y squared. So now, remember, we still have a denominator over 3y. Now what I want to do is I actually want to do any like terms that I have. And I do have like terms. So let's do that together. Let me firstly show you where the like terms are. It's over here, the y, because there's a y squared and there's a y squared. So we can simplify that together. So we'll have the 15y cubed, and then the 3 plus the 6 is 9, so it's going to be plus 9y squared minus 6y all over 3y. Now, where do we go from here? Well, guys, there's two ways. The way that I want to do it is I want to simplify a bit more by the word factorizing it. Okay, so if you have a look at this numerator over here, we have a highest common factor that we can take out. Okay, the other way that you can do it is you split it up, where you say 15y to the 3 plus 9y squared minus 6y, and you literally break it up like that, and then you start canceling. Okay, I don't know if you enjoy it this way more or the other way. I'm just going to do it the factorizing method. So if I have a look at these three terms over here, yes, it looks like a trinomial, but remember, when you factorize, you always do highest common factor first if possible, and it is possible. So is there a number that is a highest common factor between 15, 9, and 6? Yes, definitely 3. So 3 goes into 15, 9, and 6. And also we have a y that is a factor. So then once you have that, you open up your bracket, and it's going to be over 3y. And look at that. Can you see that this and this are going to end up canceling, which is great. Okay, so then how do I know what is left over here? So you say 15y cubed divided by that. So 15 divided by 3 is 5. Then you're going to get y squared plus 9 divided by 3 is 3 with just y, and then negative 6 divided by 3 is going to be 2, and it's just 2 because the y's will end up canceling. And then this bad boy, the 3y and the 3y cancel out, and we are literally left with our answer over here. This is our answer. So let's have a look if it's over here. Do we have that? Yes, we have it over here, and it is letter D. Okay, if I were to show you how to just continue along this path, let me just help you here. So over here, once you split it, separate them, you can just simplify. So 15 divided by 3, that's going to be 5. Y, so the 15 and the 3 cancel. The y to the 3 and the y to the imaginary 1 cancel. So you're left with y to the 2 plus 9 divided by 3 is 3. The y's cancel, and you're left with 1y. And then the y's cancel here, and the 6 divided by 3 is 2. So it'll be negative 2. And that is the other way of doing it, where you separate the kind of the terms on the numerator part, and then you divide all of them by the same, by the only denominator there is. All right, guys. So I'm gonna do one more, and then please tell me if you want some more. I'm gonna hopefully do some more simpler questions just to try and strengthen the basics and the fundamentals. So let's move on. Okay, so this one is simple, right? You really do know the concept, but it's just that because they put a fraction sign, it might catch you out in some way. So let's have a look together and see that we do not get caught out. Okay, so the first thing, guys, is that we are going to use our FOIL method. Okay, so why? Because what does this mean, guys? It means that the bracket is actually being multiplied together 2 times. Okay, or once, but you know what I mean. 2 brackets, 2 of the same brackets being multiplied together. So it's basically saying, like, if I said 4 squared, it's saying that the 4 is going to be multiplied by itself. Okay, so the same thing, it's just because there are brackets here and there's the squared, it means that it's going to be multiplied together. So we have to apply our FOIL method, or if you just like using little arrows, that's also fine. And this has to be multiplied by that, or to that, and then multiplied by there, and then same thing over here. This will go over there, boom, and then over there, bam. So excuse my sound effects, it's late. Let's go and do this. So 4 times 4 is 16. X times x is x squared. Now let's have a look. How do we do 4x times negative a half? So let's just do some notes on the side. 4x multiplied by negative, that's important, negative a half. So what's going to end up happening is, if you remember your butterfly method, remember that's basically over 1. Or let me not do the butterfly method. Let me do the method everyone will understand. So 4 times negative 1, we're going to end up with a negative answer. And it's negative 4. And then we must carry the x. But then 1 times 2 is 2. So this, most simplified, is negative 2x. All right, so we have negative 2x as our second term. So negative 2x. So we are done with these green arrows. We have got our 2 terms. Now we're going to do the same thing just over here. So let me choose another color. Let me choose yellow. So we're going to do this one over here now, guys. So it's actually the same thing. Can you see? Negative a half times 4x times 4x. So we're going to get the same answer because it's the same thing. So it's minus 2x, and then we need to do, so we're done with that one, and then we're doing this last arrow here, negative a half times negative a half. Guys, if you are rusty on your fraction multiplication, please just make some notes on the side, or just make sure that you're doing it right. Okay, so let's do that, negative and a negative, so we're going to end up with a positive answer. 1 times 1 is 1 over, and then 2 times 2 is 4. So this is our last term, 1 over 4, and it's a positive. So 1 over 4. And then, guys, just as usual, you just look at your entire expression and you see, sorry, this is not the final answer, but you just see what are my like terms, and we have an x and we have an x. There's nothing else. This is x squared, and this is just a constant. So it's 16x squared. Minus 2 is minus 4x, and then plus a quarter. Let's have a look where our answer is. Excuse me, so it should be B. All right, please be on the lookout for this one. It's not D because there's no plus sign. It needs to be a plus sign. Okay, guys, I'm going to leave it there. Please let me know if there's any questions. I am more than willing to just tackle some questions that you have for me. Please leave a comment to say if it was helpful or not. Share, subscribe, do all those things. It helps grow the channel and helps get the content out there for others who need it. So yeah, guys, without further ado, I'm going to call it here. Have a good day, evening, afternoon, and I'll see you in the next one.